Good afternoon, my loves. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Tiana, Darren, Torian, Isaiah, Lisbeth, Randy, Marquette. Good afternoon, Lamia. I got 3 answers so far. As you come on in, go ahead and answer the question on the screen. Make sure that you have your week 5 packet, not your week. Yes, you can. Just send a request or I'll invite you in a little bit. But make sure you have your week 5 packet, not your week 4 packet. Thank you, Destiny, for getting right to work. Thank you, Sanaya, for responding. I'm going to give a few more people a few more seconds to get on in, and then I'm going to change the question. Make sure you have your week 5 packet, not your week 4 packet, your week 5 packet. The week 4 packet makes more sense to teach it after we do week 5's work. So we're going to do the reverse order. Week 5 is what we're going to do now, and we're going to do week 4 next week. All right, I'm going to switch to the next question. Good afternoon, Kwali. Good afternoon, Aaliyah. Question number 2. Sometimes we have mistakes in our DNA. These mistakes are called A, accidents, B, chromosomes, C, genes, or D, mutations. Which one is correct? Good afternoon, Avion. Good afternoon, good afternoon. Thank you, Darren. Again, make sure you have that week 5 packet. The week 5 packet, you all. The week 5 packet. Thank you, Kwalik. Thank you, Lisbeth. Thank you, Torian. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you, Marquette. Go ahead and type your answer in the comment section if you haven't done so. Thank you, Isaiah. Good afternoon, you all. Good afternoon. I miss you too, my love. I really do. I think y'all think we are exaggerating when we say we miss y'all. We really do miss y'all. Being able to go into the school building and interact with you all, joke around with you all, teach you all, watch you all grow and learn, it means a lot to us. So the fact that we can't do it, it really does impact us as well. Good afternoon, Demaya. All right, switching to the last warm-up question in about 30 seconds. If you haven't typed your answer in the comment section, go ahead and put your answer in the comment section. I probably won't be your 8th grade teacher, but I will be checking in on y'all. All right, warm-up question number 3. Make sure, again, that you are answering the question. Put your answer in the comment section. Put your answer in the comment section. True or false, all genetic mutations are harmful. Good afternoon, Sean. True or false, all genetic mutations are harmful. Is that true or is it false? Type your answer in the comment section. I got 3 answers so far. Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Tiana. Thank you, Lisbeth. Type your answer in and make sure you have your week 5 packet. We're going to go ahead and get started in about 40 seconds. I have 7 answers. Thank you, Marquette. Thank you, Sanaya. Thank you, Torian. Thank you, Destiny. Thank you, Demaya. Thank you, Darren. Thank you, Malik. Thank you, Avion. Make sure you're participating so you can get your points towards your grade. Thank you, Lamia. I'm glad to see you made it. Thank you. Good afternoon, Lanasia. Good afternoon, Tyler. Hi, my loves. How are you? Good afternoon, Genesis. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move forward in about 20 seconds. Type your answer to the question in the comment section. True or false, all genetic mutations are harmful. A, true, B, false, or C, you don't know. You're not sure. All right, giving about 10 more seconds. All right. So, again, we are working in that week 5 packet. The week 4 packet is out of order. So week 4's content should have come after what they're asking you to learn for week 5's packet. So I'm going to teach week 5's packet today, and I'm going to teach it on Monday. We'll finish it on Monday because we're not going to finish the entire packet on one day. But we'll start on week 4 next week on Wednesday. I'm also going to post a video That'll give you pretty much all the information you need for the week 4 packet. So that way when we get started on it next week on Wednesday, you'll already have a strong basis. Also, if you refer back to the packet that we did for spring break, the first week that we were out, it also talked about the same stuff that week 4's packet is talking about. So again, refer back to that. But if you have questions, don't hesitate to direct message me. I'm going to invite somebody to join so that we can get started. All right. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Okay. So going back, so we're going to be working on our week 5 packet, and our week 5 packet focuses on natural selection and genetics. It extends from what we've been talking about with our genes and our DNA, and now it starts talking about how does that impact us in our environments. So can you read this objective to us, please?
By the end of the lessons, doctors will be able to explain, model, and analyze genetic adaptations in order to survive and in order to evaluate natural selection.
All right, how many verbs do we have, sir?
4.
We have 4. What are the 4 verbs?
Explain, model, analyze, and evaluate.
What does it mean to explain?
To tell.
Try again, different T. You're close.
Teach.
To teach. What does it mean to model?
Show.
Great. What does it mean to analyze? You got this.
Display.
It's not display. Think 2 words.
I forgot.
So I'll use it in a different sentence. So typically, detectives and crime scene investigators will have to analyze the evidence they find at a crime scene.
Breakdown.
Breakdown. Great job. And then what's the last verb?
Evaluate.
And what does it mean?
To judge.
To judge. Great job. So can you put that together for us, please?
Doctors, by the end of the lessons, doctors will be able to teach, show, break down genetic adaptations in order to judge natural selection.
Great job. And Genesis, thank you for helping him out in the comment section. So for those of you all who were here for the warm-up question number 1, it says true or false, all organisms have DNA. Is that true or is it false?
I say true.
It is true. You are correct. Great job. So you're 1 for 3 so far. Warm-up question number 2. Sometimes we have mistakes in our DNA. These mistakes are called?
Mutations.
Mutations. You're 2 for 3. Great job. So if you had D, you are correct. Most of you all had D. You are correct. All right. And then number 3, true or false, all genetic mutations are harmful.
I said false.
All right. You are correct. Not all genetic mutations are harmful. So for today's lesson, we're going to be working on the first 4 pages in the actual science part of your packet for week 5. The first 4 pages. On the top of those pages, you'll notice it says day 1, engage. And it might say day 1, explore. Those are the pages that we're focusing on today. The first 4 pages in that week 5 packet. So I'm going to teach some stuff first. So we're going to have a short mini lesson before we jump into the first 2 questions. Then we're going to have another short mini lesson before we jump into the next 12 questions. So when we think about organisms or living things, we can group them into different categories called species, right? Can you read to us what a species is?
A species is a group of similar living things.
So a species is a group of similar living things. So for example, you have bears. Those are living things, they're organisms. But you have different types of bears. So you have the black bear, that's one species of bear. You have polar bears, that's another species of bear. You have grizzly bears, that's another species of bears. So again, a species is a group of similar living things. And typically, organisms will only mate within their species. So black bears will only reproduce with other black bears. Polar bears will only reproduce with other polar bears, and so on and so forth. Another example that you can look at would be monkeys. Come on, PowerPoint, what's going on? Hold on, let me fix the PowerPoint. Okay, I got it. Another example that you can look at would be monkeys. So even though monkeys are all living things, you have different species or different groups of monkeys. So you have baboons, you have chimpanzees, you have orangutans. They're all different species of monkeys. Now, these species are all unique because they have different DNA. Now, most chimpanzees will have a lot of things in common in their DNA, but they'll each have something unique within that DNA. Same thing with baboons. If you look at the DNA of a baboon, a huge percentage of it would be the same, but there'll be certain parts that are unique to each baboon. Now, can bears mate with other bears? Yes. So can polar bears mate outside of polar bears? Not really. Typically what happens is your DNA is such that when you try and mate outside of your species, it may not be a viable match. But there are species that can mate outside of their species. So I'm going to show you an example of that actually. So when you think about it, most organisms, most multicellular organisms use sexual reproduction in order to produce offspring. And because they use sexual reproduction, how many parents do they have?
2.
They have 2. So they get half their DNA from their mom and half from their dad. So they end up with a very unique mix of DNA. What's one trait that you have that you share with a sibling or a parent?
Me?
Yes.
My hair.
Okay, so who do you share that with?
I think it's my brother.
Okay, so you and your brother have the same hair. Okay. What's another thing that you might share with somebody in your family?
Skin color.
Okay, so you might have the same skin color. So that's something that you need to keep in mind. So sexual reproduction creates babies that have unique DNA. So that means that all of our genes, even though we have some that are the same and some that are very similar, all of our genes are very unique. So you have a lot of different genes. Hint, hint. Another thing, I know 2 people asked me this in the comment section. Some species breed with other species. So if you look here, you see squirrels. If you notice, if you're in Southeast DC, you'll see black squirrels a lot of the times. If you go up to Northwest DC, you'll notice there's a lot of brown squirrels. Squirrels are one of those species that will mate with other species. So one squirrel species might mate with another squirrel species. So it depends on the animal and it depends on their preferences. But yes, some species do mate with other species. Now, all of this, sexual reproduction, species crossbreeding, all of this, don't be scared of squirrels. All of this creates something called genetic variation. Can you read this to us, please?
Genetic variation is the characteristics that make members of the same species different from one another.
Keep going.
Variation, different forms of a trait.
So if you look here, what animal do we have?
Giraffes.
All right, and what do you notice that's different about these giraffes?
They're all different colors.
They're all different colors. So even though they are all giraffes, they're all different colors because you have to remember one giraffe might have been the mom, one giraffe might have been the dad, and if they had slightly different genes when they came together to make their offspring ended up with a unique set of genes, and they might have come out with a mix of the mom and dad's colors. They might have come out looking just like the mom. They might have come out looking just like the dad. So there's a mix. Another example that you see here, butterflies. So even though some of these are different species, like this is one species, this is one species, this is one species, and then this is another species here. You have 5 species of butterflies here. Here's the 5th species here. If you look at these 2 right here, there are some small differences in these. This butterfly here, you can see more of the separation in the pattern on its wings, whereas this one doesn't have as many black lines or separations. There are different things or different genes that you inherit that give genetic variation. And again, genetic variation is just having a lot of different possible genes. So on your worksheet, the first question it asks you, it says, why do some traits of the same species vary? Generate some possible answers.
The dominant traits might overrule some recessive traits, and then some recessive traits might overrule some offspring.
Okay, I like how detailed your answer was. So I'm going to type that in, and you all can write it in your paper. Let me get to the point where I can. Here we go. Okay, so you said the dominant traits might overrule, and make sure y'all are writing this down if you don't have it. Overrule the recessive traits. Why else might there be some variety or some genetic variation amongst the same species? When we look at one species of squirrel, why might one be brown and black, whereas the other one is just brown?
Because they have different traits that may be dominant for different species.
Okay. Also, what were the two things we just talked about?
What is it? Genetic variation.
Okay, so what leads to genetic variation?
Sexual reproduction.
Sexual reproduction. Great job. So for those of y'all who are confused, your week 5 packet, you should be on this page. It looks like this. Again, your week 5 packet, you should be on the page. It looks like this. The pages aren't numbered, so I can't really say what number the page is. But it's the first real page with any real questions on it. It says week 5, day 1, engage phenomena. Why do some traits of the same species vary?
Oh, you're asking me?
No, I'm telling people because there's a couple people in the comment section who are confused.
Oh.
Destiny, Torian, Avion, Darren, did y'all figure it out? Again, we're in that week 5 packet. We're on that first question where it says week 5, day 1, engage in phenomena. So, Randy, you said because of sexual reproduction. All right. So, sexual reproduction also leads to genetic variation. When you have two parents that are combining their genes, you end up with a variety of genes, a mix of genes. You also have crossbreeding. Quali, did you find it? Okay, I'm going to move on in about 5 seconds. We're going to move on to question 2. Question 2 asks you all to come up with your own question. So for those of you all who are done writing, go ahead and type a question in the comment section that you can write down for question 2. Go ahead and write down a question in the comment section that you can write down for question 2. What's one question you can write down for question 2? So again, the pages aren't really numbered, so I can't really tell you what page it's on. It is, when I look at it on the PDF and you go to the science section, it is the second page that you should see, and that page looks like this. It's the first real page in your week 5 science packet that has questions. So question 2 says, make your own questions about the phenomena. When it says the phenomena, they're talking about the fact that some species will have different traits. So example, you might have a squirrel that has brown fur and its sibling might have black and brown fur. So they're asking you to come up with a question about why that happens. They're asking you to come up with a question about why that happens. So I have one question. What's the purpose of phenomena? Anybody else have a question? Randy, do you have a question?
No.
Okay. So we're going to move forward. But if you all think of any questions, go ahead and write them down for question 2. So the first answer we had, we said, why do some traits of the same species vary? We said the dominant traits might overrule the recessive traits. We also have a variety of traits because of sexual reproduction and crossbreeding. All right, so now we're going to go into the second mini lesson before we jump into the next set of questions in that packet. And again, we're going to do the first 4 pages today. The first 4 pages today. All right, I'm going to move forward, okay, Isaiah? I can go back to it at the end if you still need me to. All right, so Randy, can you read this to us, please? What is natural selection?
Natural selection. The process whereby organisms better adapt to their environment tend to survive and produce more offspring.
So if you had to put that in your own words, what would you say that is?
How organisms adapt to their environment.
Okay, that's great. Now, what does adapt mean?
To get used to.
Beautiful job. So it's how organisms get used to their environment. What is an organism, Randy?
Like an animal.
Beautiful. An organism is a living thing, any living thing. So natural selection is just the process that happens on its own in nature where living things get used to their environment in order to survive and make more babies. Now, if they don't get used to their environment, they'll die out. Natural selection is often referred to as survival of the fittest. So when they say survival of the fittest, they mean the strong will survive, the weak will typically die out. And by strong, they don't necessarily mean physically strong. They mean the ones that have the genes that are going to give them the advantage. So it might not necessarily be strong. So for example, a rose is not strong, but a rose has thorns. So a rose will outlast a lot of other plants because of the fact that it has something to protect it. Yes, Charles Darwin's theory of natural selection. So Charles Darwin was actually a scientist, and he studied finches, which are birds, and he noticed that as he went to different islands, that these finches had different shaped beaks. And he realized that they had different shaped beaks because they had adjusted or gotten used to their environment. So all of the finches who had a beak that helped them survive on that particular island lived out and made babies, whereas the finches who had beaks that did not help them on that island, they died out. So there are some mutations that we talked about last week that are helpful. So for example, last week we talked about sickle cell, and we said you could either be a sickle cell carrier, meaning you have the gene or the trait and you don't have the disease, or you can have the full-on disease if you got the gene from both parents. Now, sickle cell, having that gene is beneficial because it makes you immune to a virus called malaria. Immune means you're protected from it. So if you have that gene, you're protected from getting malaria. Now, sickle cell is very prevalent, meaning common. It's very common in areas close to the equator where it's really hot. But especially in Africa, a lot of the people there actually carry the sickle cell gene, so they are protected from malaria. Now, what that means is if you have a population that is endangered by a virus, think about the virus we have now, right? That virus is killing people. But if you are protected from it, then you will outlast the virus and you'll be able to live on and make more babies. But the people who don't have the genes that protect them from the virus will die out and they will not be able to make babies. Over time, you end up with a population who all have that same gene that helped protect the people, and the people who did not have the gene completely die out. So sickle cell is a disease, or it's a condition. It's a genetic disorder where your blood cells are normally shaped like donuts. They form like crescent moons or letter C's. And it's harmful because when you have donut-shaped blood cells, they can bounce off of each other and they can kind of flow through your veins and your arteries, your capillaries, and they flow fine. But when you have crescent-shaped ones, or ones that are shaped like the letter C, they interlock. They lock with one another, and what happens is they form blood clots, and blood can't get through. So that means you have a buildup of carbon dioxide in your muscles, and you also have a lack of oxygen and nutrients getting to the muscles that need them. All right, so we talked about mutations can be beneficial. Another mutation that you all should be familiar with, melanin. Randy, do you know anything about melanin?
Isn't that the thing that makes your skin tone?
Yep, that's beautiful. So here you see different skin cells, right? So the more melanin you have in your skin cells, the darker your skin is. And melanin is beneficial because it helps to protect us from the UV rays of the sun. So what you'll notice is if you go close to the equator, if you go to countries that are close to the equator, you tend to see people that have some kind of pigment to their skin because of the fact that having pigment helps protect them from the sun, helps to keep them from getting things like skin cancer. So the ones who didn't really have pigment in their skin, the ones that were more pale, they tended to die out because they tended to get different disorders or diseases from the sun. Whereas the ones that had more pigment, they were able to survive. And that's why when you go to those areas, you tend to see people who have a darker tone to their skin. It's not just because they're tanned. Another one, so some genes are not favored. So type your question in the comment section. So some genes are not favored. So some humans are born with a mutation called polydactyly. Randy, have you ever heard of that?
No.
So if you notice in these pictures here, polydactyly is a mutation where you are born with 6 fingers. And so having 6 fingers is a dominant mutation, meaning if you have it, when you will pass it on to your children most likely. But for whatever reason, it's not favored, meaning people don't tend to like it. So people tend to reproduce with people who have 5 fingers versus people who have 6 fingers. And so you don't really see a lot of people being born with 6 fingers. So all of these things will affect the way a species will develop in an environment, right? And so different species have different things called adaptations that help them get used to their environment. So adaptations, can you read this to us, please, Randy?
Adaptation. Any change in the structure or function of an organism or any part of its any of its parts that help the organism become better fitted to survive and multiply in its environment.
All right, so adaptations are things that pretty much help the organism survive. So things that are built into their genes that have over time become a staple or become something that is just the norm and help the organism to survive in their environment. So I'm going to go to a question real quick before I jump back into this. So Michael Jackson's skin color, that was different. He said he had vitiligo. There are a lot of different rumors, but we're not going to focus on him because it's going to throw us off task. Any other questions that I see up here? No. Okay, moving forward. So adaptations are things that help us survive. So for example, you have a hawk. Hawks have sharp claws so that when they fly and they need to catch prey, they can catch it and kill it in the air. Another adaptation, ducks and frogs have webbed feet. So that way they can walk on land and also swim in water very well. Another adaptation you might notice, this frog here is very colorful because it's a poisonous frog. Those colors help to let people know that it is poisonous. And some frogs will be extremely colorful, but they won't be poisonous. So their genes are set up so that they're colorful to trick people into thinking they're poisonous so that they get left alone. Another adaptation you might notice, this rabbit has big ears. Those ears help it to hear when predators are coming so they can avoid danger. Cactus, they have needles that'll help prevent people from eating it and keep it from being destroyed. They also have very long roots that run very far so they can make sure they get enough water while they're in the desert. Roses, like we talked about before, have thorns to protect them. So these are all different adaptations that they can have. Moving on, an iguana. Randy, what's one adaptation that an iguana might have?
His eyes.
His eyes. What do his eyes do?
They can see all around him.
They can see all around it. So he has more of like a 180, 360 view. What else do iguanas do?
They can move one eye at once.
They can move one eye at once, and they can also camouflage. So they can blend in with their environment. The shark right here. So a lot of animals that live in water, they have what's called a swim bladder, or they have some kind of oily liver that helps them to float in the water. So these are all adaptations that helps them to survive. Another thing that we're going to talk about today is how natural selection will shape the organisms that live in an environment. So moving on to that next part, it says they want to engage conditions for natural selection. I'm on the part that looks like this. Does everybody see this part on their paper? Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move forward. Give me a thumbs up if you're ready to move forward. Good afternoon. Okay, I got one person who's ready, 2 people who are ready, 3 people who are ready, 4 people who are ready. I'm waiting for a few more thumbs up if you're ready to move forward. All right, I'm waiting on a few more thumbs. I'm at 6, 7, 8. Some of y'all sending thumbs twice. All right, so on to these questions here where they have images. Randy, I'm going to ask you to help us through these. Question 1 says, what do you observe in picture 1? What do you observe in picture 1, Randy?
One's split into 2 and one's together.
Okay, what do you mean one is split into 2?
One has like 2 parts of it, like 2 cactuses in one, and then one is just one whole cactus.
Okay, that was an interesting observation. What else do you observe?
They have little cactuses or cacti growing out of them.
Okay, so this one right here has a little cacti growing out of it. This one right here is 2 cacti kind of in one. What else do you observe? What do you see in the background?
Oh, the animal.
Okay, so that animal is called a Javelin, and it's kind of like a pig. Here's a picture of it right here. It's kind of in that pig family or warthog family. So for question 1, all I need you all to write down is 2 things that you can kind of tell from this picture. So you have an animal or a Javelin, if you want to be specific, in the background. You have 2 cactus plants right here. One, like Randy pointed out, one cactus plant. It's kind of like 2 plants separated but right by each other. Whereas the other cactus plant kind of seems like you have one big plant and a small plant budding from that plant. There's something else I want you to notice. I know your copy might be in black and white, but looking at the copy that I have here in front of you. Oh, there's also saying, great job. There's the animal in the background. Thanks for those of y'all who are participating in the comment section. I think that's a mound of sand, not a mountain. What do you notice about this cactus versus this cactus?
It's taller.
Okay, so one is taller. What else do you notice?
Wait, can you go to the other one?
I can. So here's the first one. Here's the second one. What
I
do
don't
you
see any
notice?
spines on it.
Okay, so the second one has spines on it. The first one does not. So that's one thing you all need to have definitely written down for question 1. The cactus to the left does not have needles. The cactus to the right does have needles. They kind of do look like people, but please don't write that down for your observation. All right, so again, the cactus on the left does not have the needles or the thorns to prick people, whereas the cactus on the right does. Moving on to question 2. What is the difference between picture 1 and picture 2? Randy, what's the difference?
You said the Javelina? That's what it's
Yep.
called? It's going to eat the cactus without needles.
Okay, so in picture 1, we have the Javelina in the background. In picture 2, the Javelina is eating the cactus that does not have needles. Make sure y'all have that written down for question number 2. In picture 2, the Javelina is eating the cactus that does not have needles. All right, we're going to move forward in 5 seconds, giving some people some time to write that down. The Javelina is eating the cactus that does not have needles. All right, question 3, Randy. Why is the Javelina not eating the cactus on the right?
It doesn't have, it has needles on it.
That is correct, because it has needles. You can call them needles, you can call them thorns, you can call them spikes for today's purposes. Typically, if people say needles, they have, the one on the right has needles. That is the answer to question 3. The cactus on the right has needles. The cactus on the left does not have needles. So the cactus on the left does not have anything to protect it from getting eaten. That is why the Javelin is focused on it. Question 4, Randy. What happens to the cactus? What happens to the cactus the Javelina was eating by picture 4? So if you look at picture 1, the Javelina is in the background. Picture 2, you told me the Javelina was chomping on the one on the left. Picture 3 is what we see here. And picture 4 is what you see here. What happens by picture 4?
It dries up and dies.
It dries up and dies. All right. So the cactus on the left, the one that the Javelin was eating, dries up and dies. So you don't have to put dries up, you can put dies. That's fine. So question number 4, we can say the cactus the Javelin was eating died. For question 2, it asked, what was the difference between picture 1 and picture 2? We said picture 2, the Javelina was eating the cactus on the left. That was for question 2. And then for question 3, we said, the question said, why is the Javelina not eating the cactus on the right? And we said that was because the one on the right had spikes, whereas the one on the left did not. So again, for question 2, we said the Javelina was eating the cactus on the left. And for question 3, we said the Javelina is eating the one on the left because it does not have spikes, whereas the one on the right does. All right. So for question 4, which Randy just told us, he said the cactus died. By picture 4, the cactus has died. All right. Send me a thumbs up if you're ready to move forward. Send me a thumbs up if you're ready to move forward, or a smiley face if you're ready to move forward. If you still have a question, you're not sure what the answer to one of the questions was, type it in the comment section. Thumbs up if you're ready to move forward. I got 1 thumb. 2 thumbs. 3 thumbs. 4 thumbs. 5 thumbs. I got a upside down smiley face. I got a right side up smiley face. I got 6 thumbs, 7 thumbs. All right, it's looking like we might be ready. I got double thumbs. All right, I got another thumb. All right, great job, y'all. All right, thank you, Randy. Randy, what was this? What's with this face? Thank you, Lamia. All right, moving forward. Question 5. What is different about the cactus the Javelina was not eating in picture 3? So looking at picture 1 again, the Javelina was way in the background. He spots the cactus. He comes over. He's chomping on the one on the left. And then in picture 3 right here, what do you notice is different? What has changed from picture 1, 2, and 3?
It grew flowers.
It grew flowers, y'all. So for question 5, the answer you should have is the cactus the Javelin was not eating grew flowers. It grew flowers. It is not dying. The one the Javelin was not eating grew flowers. Good afternoon, my love. So again, it asked about the one the Javelin was not eating, not the one it was eating. It asked about the one it was not eating. So I think some of y'all are looking at the one it was eating. Yes, the one it was eating started to die. It started to change colors. It has the bite marks in it, and it started to die. But the one that it was not eating, which the question asked about, it started to grow flowers. Now, Randy, why does it need flowers? Why do flowers help the cactus?
So it can sprout more cactus, or it can have so it can reproduce.
So it can reproduce. Go, Randy, go. See, I knew I could count on you. So question number 6, how do plants use flowers? They use the flowers to reproduce. They use the flowers to reproduce. If you think back, we talked about reproduction, and we talked about how flowers can carry out sexual reproduction. So for question 6, the answer is, how do plants use flowers? They use them to reproduce. The flowers have both male parts and female parts, so they can make seeds. Again, question 6, how do plants use flowers? They use them to reproduce. Question 7, what is different about picture 4? What is different about picture 4?
It grew another cactus.
It grew another cactus. So you have another cactus that budded out and fell to the ground. If you notice, I don't think, because I know in the black and white copy, it was hard for me to see it. This cactus right here. So it grew another cactus. Picture 4, it grew another cactus. Randy, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. All right, question number 8. And then I'm going to pause and see if we have any questions. Question number 8 was a little bit loaded. So, Randy, can you read the question and give your answer, please?
There are 3 necessary conditions that must be met for natural selection to occur. The first is there must be variation in characteristics. Different individuals in the population must have different traits. What is the different trait that the surviving cactus has?
So what made it different from the cactus that got eaten?
It had needles.
It had needles. So that's what you should be putting for question 8. One cactus had needles, one cactus did not. One cactus had needles and one cactus did not. Thank you, Lady, for that observation as well. So those flowers that you saw in picture 3, those flowers became seeds. Those flowers produced seeds, and those seeds eventually became their own cactus. Yes. All right, so for question 8, you should have one cactus had needles and one cactus did not. Question 9, Randy, can you read it to us and give us your answer, please?
The condition is there must be a difference in fitness. The different traits must help the individual survive and reproduce. How did the different trait help this one cactus survive and reproduce?
So how did having needles help this cactus survive?
The Javelin didn't want to eat it because it would hurt him while he was eating.
I like how you articulated that. Great job. So you all can put something similar to that, or you can put the same thing. The Javelin avoided eating the one with needles because it did not want it to hurt it. The Javelin avoided eating the cactus that had needles because it did not want it to hurt it. Good afternoon, my love. We're in week 5 packet. We're on question number 9 in the second engage portion. All right, we're moving forward in 9 seconds. All right, question number 10, Randy, take it away.
The last condition is that the trait that affects fitness must be inheritable. The trait must be able to pass down by genes from one generation to the next. How do you know that the different trait was passed on to the next generation?
So how do you know that this cactus that fell here has those spikes?
Because it has the... Wait, what do you mean?
So how do you know that the trait was passed down? So think about it. We said that the trait that protected the cactus was the fact that it had spikes. How do you know that the trait got passed down?
Because you can see the spikes on the little cactus.
Beautiful job. Because you can see the spikes on the nuke or the baby cactus. You can see the spikes on the offspring. And question number 9, we said was the fact that they had spikes. The spikes protected it because the Javelina did not want to eat the cactus that had spikes because it didn't want to get hurt, Lanasia. All right. If you have all 10 of these questions, the answer written down, and you don't have any questions, send me a thumbs up. If you have a question, type your question in the comment section. If you don't have any questions, you're ready to move forward, send me a thumbs up. If you're ready to move forward, send me a thumbs up. I got 2 people with thumbs up. 3 thumbs up. All right, I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. That's 6 thumbs. I got a bunch of upside down smiley faces. You would send upside down smiley faces. All right, I got another thumbs up. All right. It seems like we are pretty much ready. Thank you all. Thank you, China, Darren, Lamia, Aaliyah. Thank you, Genesis, Marquette. Elizabeth, did you have a question? Thank you, Destiny, Randy, Kwalik. You need number 10. Okay, so number 10, we said that we know the gene got passed down because you can see the offspring or the baby cactus also has spikes. I'll say it one more time because I think 3 of y'all needed that. We know the gene was passed down because you can see that the offspring or baby cactus has spikes. All right, so as always, I'm going to ask you all to stick with me because I know we're going to go a little bit past 145, but we'll probably stop at 150. So I need an extra 5 minutes. So stick with me for those 5 minutes so we can hit our mark of the first 4 pages. So moving on to the next part, it gave us a long scenario. And then they asked you to use that scenario to draw a cartoon. They gave you 3 boxes that you had to use to draw a cartoon. I went on a website called Storyboard That, and I used that website there to make my cartoons. You all might want to go on there and play around with it. It's Storyboard That typically lets you make a free account, and you can typically make, I think, 1 or 2 free storyboards. So you might want to play with that now that you all have a little bit of free time since we're not in the actual school building. But if you drew it out, that's also fine. Randy, can you read scenario 1, please?
A long time ago, there was a herd of giraffes that lived on the savannah. Most giraffes had short necks, but some had long necks. All of the giraffes liked eating leaves. The environment changed. Many of the trees died. Giraffes continued to eat leaves of the trees, but after a while, only the leaves at the top of the trees were left. The giraffes with short necks did not get enough to eat and died. The giraffes with long necks were able to eat from the tallest trees and survive.
All right, beautiful job, Randy. And Elizabeth, thank you for helping the period. Malika, I was going to answer your question after we finish this one, but thank you, Elizabeth. All right. So they asked you to take that scenario and to draw it. So, Randy, what were the 3 pieces that you might have drawn in your cartoon?
The giraffe with the short neck and the long neck, the trees dying, and then the giraffes with the long necks eating.
Okay, so you had it broken up into 3. So you had one image where you had a giraffe with long neck and short neck. Then you had one image where you had them eating from trees, and then the trees died. And then you had another image where it was only the long neck giraffe eating. Okay, so my cartoon looks slightly different. And you all, I'm not expecting you all to be Picasso and to draw anything amazing. If you literally draw a stick figure giraffe, it is fine. So here's my first image. I have my short giraffe and I have my tall giraffe. I have my short giraffe and my tall giraffe. Stick with me, Sean. And then I added a little bit of conversation. If you want to do that, that's fine. That's extra points. And then I have my giraffes over here. So the tall giraffe is able to find food in high places, while the giraffes with the shorter necks have a disadvantage because they have to find the scarce food when the trees start to die. And then after a while, those short giraffes died out. So here's what I made on my storyboard. Again, I started out with a tall and a short. Good afternoon, my love. And then after that, it went from my tall and short to my short ones were struggling because the trees started to die. And then at the end, I was only left with a tall giraffe. All right, moving on. Anybody have questions about scenario 1? Type them in the comment section. Moving on to scenario 2. Scenario 2, Randy, read it to us, please.
A group of lab rats escaped from a science laboratory. Most of the rats have white fur, but some have brown fur. They set up housekeeping in a field of hay. Some hawks found the group of lab rats and they began to hunt them every day. Soon, most of the white rats were eaten. Only the brown rats were in the field.
All right. So what did you draw for your 3 cartoon boxes?
I drew lab rats escaping from the laboratory, and the brown ones.
Okay.
And then a field or hay, and the house, and then the hawks picking up the white rats.
Okay, I like how you did that. Okay, so yours sound very similar to mine. So on mine, what I did was I had the lab rats escaping, like you said, and that's my first one. My second one, I had those rats hiding out in the field of flowers because I couldn't really find hay on the website. And then I have the hawk coming and grabbing up some of those gray or those white rats. And then if you see here, the brown rats started to increase because they were able to survive and reproduce, whereas the white rats started to decrease because they were all getting eaten up and they weren't able to survive and reproduce. So here's another example of what you all could have drawn. Now, my storyboards I'll post on the class Instagram page so you all can see them. And in scenario 3, Randy, can you walk us through scenario 3?
A group of moths lived on trees in a forest. Most of the moths were gray with white spots, but some were born with black wings. The trees they lived on had gray bark. One day, a factory moved into the neighborhood and began emitting black smoke. The soot from the factory coated the bark of the trees. A flock of birds was looking for something to eat and were able to spot the moths with the gray and white spots and ate them all up. Now most of the moths have black wings.
Okay, so what did you draw, sir?
I drew black and gray moths on a tree.
Okay.
I drew a factory with smoke coming out.
Okay.
And then I drew birds eating moths.
I like how in each of your scenarios you drew what it initially was, what the environmental change was, and then what the outcome was. Great job. So yours sounds somewhat similar to mine. I didn't have a factory because I couldn't really find a factory on this, so I used the owl instead. So I have black and white moths in a tree. Then an owl comes to eat them, and the white ones are easy to see, so the owl takes all the white ones. And then from there, I have only the black moths, which are hidden in that tree, are able to survive. So again, those are examples of what you all could have done. So then they gave you all this table. Let's fill this table in real quick, and then we're going to answer these last 3 questions, and we're done for today. So in this table, scenario 1, what was the trait in question? When we talked about the giraffes, what was the trait in question?
The giraffes with long necks and short necks.
Beautiful. So the length of their necks. I'm going to type it in here. You all write on your paper. The length of the necks. Length of the giraffe's necks. Can't see. Okay. The length of the giraffe's necks. All right. Now, the genetic variation. You said we had long necks and we had short necks, right?
Yes.
Long and short was our genetic variation. And then the environmental change. What happened in the environment?
The trees only had leaves on the top.
All right. The trees only had leaves higher up. All right. And then what trait survived or became predominant?
Giraffes with longer necks.
All right. So the long neck giraffe survived. And then what trait was suppressed?
Short necks.
The short neck got suppressed. Good. All right. Let's keep it moving. The second scenario 2, that was the one where we had the lab rats. So what was the difference in our lab rats? What was the trait in question?
The white and black.
All right.
Or fur.
Right, white and black. So white or black fur. All right, and then the genetics. So So we need to move that. So white or black fur was the actual genetic variation. We'll move that down here.
The color
But the
first.
color was the trait in question. So the fur color. All right. And then the environmental change, what happened?
The hawk spotted the white rats.
Okay, so they had new predators. So they had, I'm going to put predators. And in parentheses, I'm going to put hawks so we can be specific. All right. And then, so what trait outlasted the hawks?
The hawks couldn't see the black rats.
All right. So we had was it black or was it brown? It was black?
I think it was brown.
It was brown. All right. So the brown rats survived. The brown fur became predominant, and then the white fur got suppressed. All right. And in scenario 3, what was the trait in question?
The gray moths and the color of the moths.
All right. So the color of the moths. All right. And then we had what colors?
Gray and black.
Gray and black. All right. And then the environmental change, what happened?
The factory changed the color of the tree bark.
Factory changed the color of the tree bark. All right. And then which one outlasted the factory?
Black moths.
The black ones outlasted the factory, and the gray ones were suppressed.
Yes.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, you all should have this filled in on your table. After your table, they gave you several questions that you needed to answer that were pretty straightforward. I'm going to move forward in 5 seconds. All right, so question 1 said, what advantage did the long-necked giraffes have? What advantage did the long-necked giraffes have, Randy?
They could eat the leaves higher up on the trees.
They could eat the leaves higher up on the trees. So you should be writing that in for question 1. The giraffes with the long necks could eat the leaves that were higher up on the trees. So when those trees started to die out and all the tall trees were only ones left, the giraffes were able to eat the trees higher up. Elizabeth, I can go back to that table in a second. I'm going to just fill these questions in and I'll go back to that table. Again, they could eat the leaves higher up on the tree for question 1. Question 2, what advantage did the brown fur give the lab rats, Randy?
The hawks could see the white rats because they were easier to spot out in a pale face.
So what's that called when you don't stand out? To see where you're able to do what?
Conceal.
Okay, that was not the C word I was thinking of, but your vocabulary right there was beautiful. So I'm looking for camouflage, but conceal works just as fine. So question number 2, what advantage did the brown fur give the lab rats? They were able to camouflage with their environment. Because camouflage can be somewhat difficult to spell, I'm going to go ahead and type that in. They were able to camouflage with their environment. They were able to camouflage with their environment. See, even I was spelling wrong. Camouflage with their environment. Thank you, Genesis. You spelled it right. Okay. Carly, what are these symbols you keep putting in here? All right. Question number 3. What advantage did the black wings give the moths?
The birds couldn't see the moths.
So they were able to do what?
They were able to hide against the tree.
So what's that word again?
Camouflage.
They were able to camouflage. So I'm going to try and spell it right this time. They were able to camouflage. right, ladies and gentlemen, we have done the first 4 pages. We have done this page here. We've done this page here. This page here should be done, and this page here should be completed. What I would like for you all to do is to answer the questions on this page where it says pre-reading activity, and then go ahead and start reading through this article so that next week, when we get into it, we can actually play our game, and we can finish the week 5 packet. Elizabeth, I promised you I'd go back to this table. I am going to post my storyboards, my cartoons on the class Instagram page, and I'm also going to post some other assignments that you all can try and do for extra credit points. If you have not sent me pictures of your packets, please make sure you do that, please, so I can go ahead and give you those points towards your grade to say that you have actually completed the work. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me via direct message or to call me if you have my cell phone number. If you need anything, as always, reach out. Do we have any questions before we wrap up today? Randy, by the way, you were phenomenal. And because you joined live, you do get double the points. I'm excited that you are able to keep up and articulate your thoughts this way. I'm very, very proud of you. You know, China, you don't have to take a picture of this. You should have filled it in on this page here. I believe it's the 4th page that we did. It should look like this. That's the same table right there. I just recreated it in a PowerPoint. All right, if you have everything, you can go ahead and log off. I love you all. I will see you all on Monday. Make sure you're checking the class Instagram and the post that I put up so that way you guys can stay informed. You need question 1, Lanasia. Question 1. Yes, great job, Randy. Great job. Question 1 asks, why do some traits of the same species vary? Generate some possible answers. And this is what we put. We said that the dominant traits might overrule the recessive traits. You have sexual reproduction, which gives us babies that have different types of genes. And then you also have some crossbreeding that occurs. Yes, you all be safe, be wise. Do not get on your parents' last nerves. I love you all. Lanasia, send me a thumbs up once you got it, okay? Because I know my live is going to cut off on me in about a minute. Because apparently we can only do an hour. Not that one, the other number 1. Okay. You're talking about this one right here. What do you observe in picture 1? This one. And we said that we observed Javelina walking in a desert with 2 cactus. Is it that one you're talking about? What is this on the bottom of my screen? Oh, yes. Make sure y'all attend tomorrow's Zoom. Lanasia, is this the number 1 you're talking about, or are you talking about the other number 1? Oh, what advantage did the long necks get the giraffes? I don't know why they numbered it this way. I'm sorry. Okay. You're talking about this number 1. Okay, so what advantage did the long necks get the giraffes? We said it enabled them to eat the leaves higher up on the trees when the shorter trees started to die out. It enabled them to eat the leaves higher up on the trees when the shorter trees started to die out. Dad, they give you a countdown and everything. Let you know they're about to cut you off. Goodness, that's so rude. Lanasia, you got it. You send me a thumbs up if you're good. If you need any other questions, let me know. Okay. All right. I'm glad to see you made it to class, my love. All right. Y'all be safe. Thank you, Isaiah, for being amazing as well. I love the fact that you all are participating. I'm going to log out now. And if you have questions, direct message me.